As the 70s roll in, stability around the world has never been as shaky. Interplanetary alliances join together to seek ideological supremacy across both planets. Cultural shifts are uprooting norms that have been in place for centuries. Technological shifts have been changing how the world itself functions. As these shifts occur, life continues in the Seedbearer region, where a seemingly random group of people have come together to try and make sense of the nonsensical. This is Hazeltown's story. Alright, it has been a while since we've had an episode. Last time we were testing out some new stuff and we're testing out the changes that we've made. So what I figured that I'd reconvene that we'd have an arc. But in the meantime, the month or so after we had our last episode, I have been having some thoughts on, well, we were working on rebuilding the kind of engine that all this runs on. One thing I have kind of noticed that as we were kind of going through, this is also, normally this would just be a discussion between the group, but since I kind of want this thing to be a kind of a encapsulation of all the stuff that involves running a tabletop thing, I kind of want to do this episode mostly out of a I have not GM'd for that terribly long. I mean, this Hazeltown story was kind of my first, and though I have been in a few tabletop games, I felt like one thing that I feel, and just from what I have talked with other people, when you kind of GM, you kind of have an idea of, especially if you're doing something that is based off of a story that's in your head, for the most part, or a story that you've created, you kind of have the idea for what the tone is for, or what's going to happen in your story. But the thing is, when you're playing a tabletop game, or especially with a group, is that if it's not a set setting, say something like the world of D&D or Star Wars or something, then the lore is kind of not super there, so people aren't exactly expecting what to expect. So I one of the things as a GM that you need to do is you kind of need to be a little flexible with your players. And I'll admit, when I kind of came into this, I had an idea with what I wanted Hazeltown story to kind of go through, and it kind of got derailed a smidge from what my original intentions was. So I kind of feel and especially as I've been kind of writing these mini arcs from kind of the seat of my pants, I feel like before I kind of sat down, because the idea that I wanted was I wanted to come in with a new arc. But as I was kind of sitting down, I felt like before I wanted to start a new arc, I wanted to sit down here and actually talk it out, because I kind of feel like we've been going in some meandering directions. And I am thinking that I actually want to do a story refresh, so to speak. Kind of not necessarily rebooting. Well, we'll see how much rebooting there is, but I don't want to do that because I know we've all worked on these characters. But I do kind of want to, I guess, reboot continuity, so to speak. And here I brought together the main players to discuss some ideas or what their thoughts were on doing a story reboot. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. Why don't you just, for clarity's sake, why don't you all introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Carnival.
I am, of course, Deathmaster 780.
And I'm TorpidTypist, I guess.
All right. So yeah, we've had a number of things. Last time, I don't even know where to kind of begin with this. This kind of was this, as you can already tell, is going to be more of a off the cuff kind of episode. So before I kind of go into is there any particular, because we've kind of gone through some mini meta arcs. We have done, we started out the Constellation Cult stuff and kind of went through that stuff. There has been a little bit of extraterrestrial or supernatural things in there as
Extraplanar.
well. Yeah, extraplanar to be more specific. And had some other like small. I don't even know if small town weird shit vibes, like especially that one that took place in the square with the lady who was trying to record. I kind of even forgot what the meta plot of that one was as well.
It was the lady who was spying on the mall,
Oh
the
right,
like
yes,
city center, and
yes,
we found the sex club underneath the theater.
yeah. That also that
Erotic
too.
hypnotism.
Yes. So before we kind of like, is there any of that specific thing that you felt like you would want to focus on?
I kind of like the goofier shit, like the mystery surrounding the fetish club. At least for me, I felt that was where it was kind of strongest. It's just a pack of dipshits being dipshits together.
Carnival DM, any other thoughts?
I'm trying to think because, like, yeah, I think our strongest bits are like this. This is definitely the strongest when it's like we are clown choosing our way through a thing that either we are severely underestimating or overestimating the like actual like severity of the situation.
But it's just small enough scale for there to be a lot of flexibility with what we're doing. At least for me.
I honestly doesn't really matter to me one way or other. I'm someone who generally just likes the role playing part of this stuff, so anything where there's like strong story stuff I can sink my teeth into. It's good for me.
Okay. I kind of feel like, especially if you have a group, and this is not meant to be any sort of like qualitative assessment, but just in general, from what I have both been in games with you three, and also been the GM for this, it's also interesting because you guys tend to cause trouble just a smidge, which has been a fun
No.
which has been a fun thing to write through. Because like in my head, like the main characters of the group that I have in my head are like more goody two shoes, and having to not write that has been interesting. Which is also
Yeah,
kind of
we are
where
a menace to society.
which is why I kind of felt like I've been doing the Constellation Cult stuff a little bit more, because that gives you some freedom to do that in a way that actually makes like you have license to do that stuff. So okay, that does give me some direction, because with that in mind, I did actually, because one other thing I want to do is, if we're doing a refresh, because I did, if especially for those that are listening, you might have noticed that each kind of quote unquote season, although it's not really season, there's like an arc of Hazeltown story. It's had little subtitles, like there was Contact and I forgot what the other ones were, but there was it was always Hazeltown story or like word. And I feel like if I wanted, like, the next thing that we're going to do is going to be like a new one of those, and I think it is going to be, I'll discuss with, because I have three ideas, and I could potentially even think of another one, but I have three ideas so far, and I'll go through them and see what you think, although it's really two and a half. But yeah, so this is an idea, because I was thinking of like you doing, like, giving you license to do like crime stuff, like stuff like for Torpo, like Queen would be good at, or like even Bobby, or I guess technically Claudia would be good
Right.
with like working with like dealing with the cults or like the more violent stuff. That I kind of was going towards, just because it gave you a little bit of wiggle room. So I had an idea, and this is also going through a offhand comment that I thought it was a offhand comment, but I guess it turned out to be a little bit more of an interesting thing, because when we were talking about uh, how the law, or how from a legal standpoint in Seedbear, or in the Seedbear region, where if you do a crime as a known member of a particular group, that it's considered like legally actionable in a different way. which gave me one of like the first of these three, which I don't know if I'm going to call it the taxmen or the debt collectors, but basically what you'd be doing, and I believe this would be set in the same setting, where you as a group would be working, and I don't know exactly lore-wise how this would work, but essentially you'd be getting jobs where it's like, hey, this group did X, and now we're going to try and do something in order to kind of as a retaliation or something. So each arc would be you trying to
We can be the Untouchables.
Pretty much.
Black Ops.
So that was one idea I had. Kind of related to that, though not really. I just have one that's just called Scooby-Doo stuff. And I feel like, because basic thing that I do want to get away from is that the entire tie-in to like Team Rating Rainbow or even like dealing with anyone you did before kind of didn't matter that much because you were kind of just doing your own thing. And I feel like tying that into it there wasn't a reason for it. And it always felt kind of ham-fisted.
No, I loved abusing our one police contact.
Well, the police contact is probably actually going to stay. But
cool. Toby was cool.
With like the library crew and all that never really happened once you stopped doing the scrying stuff. Like I feel like there was no point in there being a connection there.
No, it very quickly stopped mattering.
Yeah,
it didn't help that all of the scrying stuff was essentially toothless.
It was toothless. Also, it was very railroady.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give you guys some room to breathe. Yeah, like I said, either doing Black Ops stuff or the alternate thing is basically you being X-Files stuff. Although, in regards to like what that would be is up for debate. That being said, third option I feel like is a little bit different. Because I know that we have had discussions in the past of maybe, I can't remember who said it, or maybe if I'm misremembering this, but because of the alternate history nature of this kind of setting, that kind of exploring other regions might be a little more interesting, or like at least poking at like, say, I don't know, some stuff in the US or stuff in like any of the other countries, or like, hell, I don't even like going to like other locations than Seabear, like going to China or like doing that kind of stuff. And there is a aspect, although this is actually kind of relating to the scrying stuff. And it's something that I've more been writing as of lately. So actually, this has kind of been an element of the world that it's kind of more manifested itself as I've been doing this, because an idea that I've had is because like going back to the like scrying place where like you were able to like explore this world that you weren't there, like you were in a scrying, like you were in this world that was like created, that is like a replication of someplace that existed. Like especially like the very first arc where you were able to go into that mountain thing. What I have been thinking about doing is it is a lore bit that hasn't really been explored a whole lot, but what if there was like a whole connected world of those little things connected to each other somehow? And your team would be a group of people that has somehow landed themselves in a world that is like connected, but each of the like things that are connected are like fragments of the real world, so to speak.
So like a pseudo MISC?
Yeah, like trying to think of like a good plot or like a good comparison.
Sliders.
What was that?
Sliders.
Maybe not sliders. Like
Oh wait, the thing you're describing. Wait, that's flip flappers.
Sure, that is. I'm trying to think. I feel like we've watched something that was actually closer, but I can't remember what it is. But yeah, essentially that it's a world that is made to be a recreation of our world, but like fragments of it that like also dealing with like the arc we had where we're in the bar, where there was these weird characters like Bernard or like the other or Lucky or whoever the bartender was, where you're dealing with like these like characters that you don't know where they are. They aren't like necessarily people that are there, but they're like, I'm trying to think of the term for it. Actually, almost in a weird way, if I'm trying to think of like stuff, it's almost like imagine AI, or AI the Somnium Files, but instead of going into someone's dreams, you're just like going into like this like interpretation of a region, that there is an event that happened and you're going through it and you've landed yourself somewhere in there and you're trying to figure out why or what's going on. That is an idea for another arc. That itself you probably wouldn't need to roll characters, but that is definitely a like setting reboot. And also you'd have to figure out like how you manage to get it. I would have a lot of this stuff more like solid, but before I did that, I figured I'd discuss it and figure which ideas do you kind of feel like you'd want to go more down.
I kind of lean more towards either the like X-Files or Black Ops thing, personally.
To be fair, X-Files can kind of lead into the I should say the Black Ops shit can kind of feed into X-Files stuff, but yeah. I kind of like Scooby-Doo shit personally, but
Okay.
My one complaint about the last thing is it's maybe a little too high concept for what you're trying to do.
Possibly. That's the thing, is like I had this idea in my head, but I figured I'd put that on the table before I like put it away as too high concept.
That's one. It's high concept, and I would say we would need a different system than the one we have to run that.
Possibly, yeah.
I'm fine with either of the X-Files or the Scooby-Doo shit.
Okay.
Black Ops shit.
Well, X-Files is a Scooby-Doo shit, but yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I will so basically we are going to focus more. Okay, so one of those first two options that I said. Okay, so I guess with that, is there any leading towards that you'd like to do? Would you want to start out as Black Ops stuff, or would you rather start as, hey, we're this team that's like investigating weird stuff, as like like we don't have a set team to investigate this. You kind of as a group manage to like do this once, and then it's like, okay, what if we set you up as like a team to do this?
Basically, are we already established as working together, or just bumble into it? Is what you're getting at?
Yeah. Unless you want to all redo like getting to know each other, but I feel like unless you all want to re-roll characters,
No.
I feel like you all like there's a lot of effort that went into those things. I kind of don't want to throw those characters away.
I think working together as an already established group is fine.
Yeah, I would need to write down like or work out like what is your team in like
That's
who are your
fine, yeah.
contacts. I would imagine that you would have if not actually Toby, you would have a Toby equivalent.
Toby finally found someone else to deal with our bullshit.
Ah, yes, finally. Instead of it being just a cop friend, it's our actual higher up who we're supposed to answer to.
Yeah, because like technically you were supposed to like it. The chain of command got really complicated really quickly, or really, it was either got really complicated or incredibly nebulous.
It was just really muddy.
So I feel like writing like, hey, you're working for this organization.
I mean, as an alternative to that, without really having to rewrite a lot of stuff, you did link us up with Libra in the final canonical campaign, so
there is that I could have you be like a member of Libra, although
or if
that
not,
would get
one of the other friendly ones.
Yeah, the only thing is that could get complicated really quickly. Also, it'd imply that you work with stuff that I feel like would be a little bit more limiting. I'd have to think about it, but I feel like the best scenario is you are a group of like, you happen to like know each other and you did some jobs together. Like you were a group of people with like connections that have managed to do some investigation stuff that you can be on tap. It's like, hey, don't want you kind of going out like just out willy-nilly. If you trying to think, like, if you want to go out and do the kind of investigation you're doing, providing that you can like stay within these guidelines, we will provide you with.
We basically got
stuff.
too loud, and they wanted but we were good at what we did, but because they didn't want us to start actually breaking things that are important, they hired us.
Yeah, or it's like, hey, we don't want, like, you're doing, like, not necessarily you have even, like, broken something, but it's the potential of you breaking something before that even happens. It's like, hey, what if you decide to, like, work with us? We'll kind of we'll keep hands off, but if you, like, because the targets that you're going after are people that we are also after, but since you're not exactly, like, pros, that there is a little bit of like liability there, that we'll keep guidance but we'll give you guidance on or if you allow us to give you a little bit of guidance, we will give you some material to work with.
Directed dipshittery.
Pretty much. Okay. That sounds like probably the path I'll go down. I take it, would you rather be to start out, it sounds like you'd rather do, like, or at least have it start off with, like, X-Files side versus the Black Ops side?
Yeah. Let's start off. We gotta build before we go and assassinate Ronald Reagan.
Damn.
You thought I forgot about it, but no.
See, that's also the reason I was thinking of the debt collectors one. Is because maybe, like, occasionally you'd go to, like, other places.
Yeah,
but who
no, I'm
knows?
fine with that. Again, we gotta build before we assassinate Ronald Reagan.
Yes.
Kissinger yet lives.
Okay. So, okay. From the group that I'm getting that, okay, so going to reestablish you as a group of people that are a off-the-books organization that is kind of helping out with some extraplanar or even weird shit that's been happening. Okay, I will focus on that. That at least gives me something to work with. I can start with an arc, and then I can, before I start, I'll let you all know kind of what I'm thinking, give you some wiggle room, but I'll do that off thing, because that sort of minutia we don't need to discuss.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I felt like that kind of is what I was thinking of just doing, is just like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. It sounds like we'll be doing the Scooby-Doo stuff. So next time you hear from us, that means that we will hopefully start a new arc with that in mind. So that will do it. So thank you all for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Hazeltown Story. If you would like to get updates on this show and many other shows hosted by me, LoloDePuzlo, you can follow at Hazeltown Story on Twitter, and if you would like to get to know me, or from a personal standpoint, you can follow my personal Twitter, at LoloDePuzlo. If you would like to watch this be recorded live, you can go to twitch.tv/LoloDePuzlo and follow the channel for notifications of when this show, as well as other shows like Retro Rank Rhapsody, are being recorded. If you would like to add this podcast to your podcatcher of choice, you can search for WLDP Hazeltown Radio and find us on most major podcatching search engines. Or you can manually add rss.hazeltown.life to your podcatcher. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come around for the next episode.